Well, there were a number of measures announced today that we've been calling for. I mean, particularly the so-called Kickstart scheme that seems to be modelled on what the Welsh Labour government has done and the Future Jobs Fund that was introduced by a Labour government previously. So certainly we did want some of those elements of support to be introduced. But I think we are concerned that we're still seeing from the Chancellor this one-size-fits-all approach being taken to the different economic packages, particularly the job retention scheme. We do think he needs to shift from that, because actually the big problem now is such large numbers of people falling into unemployment. We need to help them once they become unemployed, but we need to stop them becoming unemployed in the first place as well.
Just before we move on to what he didn't do, just back on what he did, there's a finance bill, I believe, next week. Will Labour therefore be voting in favour of all of these measures?
Well, I don't believe currently, I mean, obviously we need to look at the detail within that bill, but I don't believe we would be wanting to oppose major elements of it at this stage. I mean, in the case of stamp duty, obviously it's been quite a chaotic process, but the problem is with stamp duty cuts, once you suggest they're going to happen, you need to go ahead with them, because otherwise you're saying to people, don't buy your house now, and that's really problematic when we've got such big problems in construction. So I don't think we're going to be opposing those elements, but we do still need to see change.
So that means that, for instance, you will be supporting the £1,000 bonus for employers that employ people who were on furlough through November, December and January. Now, even though the enormous cost of that £9 billion, a lot of that money will go to employers who already will have decided to bring people back, and will go to many, many of the richest companies in this country. Why on earth are you supporting a policy like that if it does something like I've just described?
Well, we have precisely called on the Chancellor, indeed I just did that within the House of Commons. We've called on him to set out conditions to make sure that it's not used in that way, that it would just be a kind of deadweight cost. We've said to him to show us that it won't just be money going to those employers who would be taking people back on anyway.
But you're still supporting it. But you are still supporting this plan.
Well, we certainly think that we've consistently called for the job retention scheme to be made more flexible. We're very, very worried about the fact that unless changes are made, it will simply have been postponing unemployment. So to the extent that for some areas it will be hopefully incentivising employers to keep people on, we would want to support it. But do I want to see a more targeted approach? Absolutely I do, and I've been consistently calling on the Chancellor to do that. He's not delivered it today, but we're not going to oppose something that goes part of the way there.
So you are happy to back the £1,000 for companies, even though a lot of that money may well go to rich companies and to employers who've already decided to basically bring their staff back?
Well, we do want to see a more targeted approach. You know, I'm consistently on the record for having said that. The Chancellor has ruled out a more targeted approach. Therefore, if this is what he's putting forward, to try and keep people out of unemployment, then we're not going to criticise that unnecessarily. The big problem that we've got now in the UK is unemployment potentially rising up to its previous record from the 1980s of 3 million people. The Chancellor needs to be acting to prevent that additional rise. That measure would help, but as you said, if it's not appropriately targeted, there will be a lot of deadweight costs going to employers who don't need that money.
But you accept, through your backing of these schemes, that the Chancellor's done things today that are quite likely to mean that some of the unemployment that had been forecast won't happen?
Well, I obviously really hope that will be the case. I do think that a more targeted approach to the job retention scheme than what the Chancellor has put forward today, and the self-employed scheme, would have made much more of a difference. I do think it would have kept more people out of unemployment, and it's not clear to me that the particular problems facing the UK economy are being acknowledged as part of this crisis. We seem to have the slowest growth in vacancies out of many industrialised nations currently in the UK. We've got that specific problem. That means we've really got to keep people out of unemployment and not just be helping them once they become unemployed.